Instagram. Okay. So, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Just give us 2 minutes. Let's want to make sure we are technically good. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And I realize like people are going to slowly join, inshallah. So we're just going to give it a couple of minutes before we start our full-on discussion about positive parenting today with Sister Gulnaz from Halal Parenting. So, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just give me 1 second to check. We actually are live. Yeah, we look good here. And let's check on Instagram too.
I am off camera, I think.
Oh, we can see you.
Can you see me on Instagram? Because I think we're just seeing.
I think what Instagram will do is have probably a speaker at a time. So yeah, that's just how I think it works. So you can see our live there?
I can see the live on my phone.
Okay, great. So just recording it.
I need to go to sleep.
Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum once again. Please do say salams as you're joining in. Don't forget to say salams. Earn your good deeds for saying salams. And today we're going to be having a very important discussion about positive parenting. So inshallah, I'm sure you guys are going to really enjoy that and benefit from it. So please do begin by saying salams. So bring your tea, because this is going to be a big, long discussion, inshallah, and something very beneficial to you. So, okay, we're good here. Walaikum assalam, Farouk. Okay, I'm just trying to get on so I can see the Instagram comments too. Just give me 1 second. Bismillah. Okay. Walaikum assalam, Queen and Sazail. You guys gonna have to tell me your names in Instagram. I feel really weird reading this. These shorts handles to say salams to. Okay. So, assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Ariba Farheen, and I'm the founder of Emaan Power. And alhamdulillah, we are blessed today with the company of Sister Gulnaz, who's the founder of Halal Parenting magazine, and she's a certified positive discipline parent parent educator, and runs workshops to help parents bring calm and order to their homes through kindness, firmness, and mutual respect. So, you can check out her Instagram page and have a look at some wonderful content, mashallah, they have for parents like you. And today our discussion is going to focus on raising our children, and I'm sure you're going to find a lot of beneficial value through this session that you can utilize in your parenting. So Jazakallah khair for your company, Sister Gulnaz, today, for joining us for this discussion and giving us this valuable knowledge.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really a big fan of you and the work that you do with children, mashallah. So I'm excited to talk today a little bit about positive discipline.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so if we can, let's dive in. And by the way, those of you who haven't said salam so far, please do say salams, everybody. Don't be stingy with your salams. Okay, walaikum assalam, Sister Meena. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Since she said the long salams, we have to reply to the long salams. Walaikum assalam, Sister Fazia. So everybody take a lead from Sister Meena and reply with the longest salam so you get the biggest good deeds. Walaikum assalam, Sister Saima, Sister Shiza. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Miyashio. Walaikum assalam. So please do say salams. Salams is, we are spreading salams. So we, inshallah, are also making salam is a dua, right? So we are making this dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings barakah to all of us through each other and protects us from any harm, inshallah. So please do continue saying salams as you're joining in. And let's begin. Let's dive in. So the first question I have is if you could tell us more about halal parenting.
Sure. So I'm a mother to 4 children who are now mostly teenagers, and I started to learn about positive discipline in my own desperate attempt to learn a better way to raise my children that was not physically or emotionally painful for them or for me, and that unfortunately many cultures promote. And during my research on how to become a better mother, I would often ask myself, what does Islam ask us to do in how we raise our children? So I was spending a lot of time researching practical parenting tips and techniques that worked, along with the Islamic perspective. And I kept what I learned, and I decided to find some way to share this information to other Muslim parents so that it would be easier to find such information. And what I found was that the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised his children and the children in his blessed household greatly resembled the teachings of positive discipline. And so I knew I was onto something. This is how halal parenting was created. It was the idea of sharing relevant, timely parenting advice for every stage of parenting to Muslim families on a regular basis. Workshops are something that we've just started to include in the lineup. And so I pray that it helps to elevate the lessons so that others can, inshallah, adopt these strategies much easier and quicker than I did.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, that sounds wonderful. So my next question is, what is positive parenting?
Yeah, it's kind of a buzzword that gets thrown around, and it's not always clear what it means. But positive discipline or positive parenting is an approach that's based on mutual respect and cooperation. And so the biggest difference between this discipline method and other most common methods, which are either very strict authoritarian kind of parenting or a very lax and permissive kind of parenting, is that this falls in the middle. So positive parenting incorporates firmness and kindness at the same time.
Right. So it's not just all happy, just everything is good. You just, there is firmness to it as well.
Exactly. But the firmness is delivered in a way that is kind.
Right. Firmness in a kind way.
Yes.
Mashallah, that's a gem. Okay. Can you give some examples of positive parenting so parents can, from positive parenting from Sunnah? You said that you saw examples of that in the Sunnah and that was the way.
Yes.
So if you can give us some examples from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu.
Yeah, so Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never hit children. That's the first thing. And the Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's primary focus when interacting with children was to build a bond of trust. So he took time and he took interest in children's games and conversations, and he built relationships founded on love. And it became easier then for him to talk to children about certain matters, and he would have their full attention and they would be eager to comply because they loved him. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood that in order for children to listen, first they need to feel heard. So with this loving foundation that's built on well-established trust, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be affectionate with children before asking them to do something. For instance, he would say, "Oh Mu'ad, I love you, so don't forget to recite after every prayer, oh Allah, help me in remembering you and offering thanks to you and in worshiping you properly." So he started the sentence with, "I love
I
you,
love you.
so don't forget to do this."
Yeah.
And the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through this and through many other examples that being loving and showing love, affection, and emotion are the essential ingredients in building relationships with children. Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never punished his children physically, and he would strongly oppose anyone who did that. So when we have this foundation established, we should think about teaching our children other things. So only when we have a strong foundation of love with our children and trust, then we should start to think about teaching them things, especially religious instruction,
Right.
And why? So that our children associate the deen with love, and they want to connect to our creator and worship him through that love, not through fear. And subhanAllah, the rahmah that is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam extends to all of us. And so by following his example, we're not only being kind and merciful to our children in the way that we teach them, but we're also being kind and merciful to ourselves so that we earn Allah's pleasure and his mercy and not his wrath and his anger. And when we do that, we won't feel frustrated, angry, bitter, resentful, or overwhelmed when we follow his way of interacting with children.
Right.
We all face issues in life that can cause us to worry and affect us emotionally. And it can be easy to allow ourselves to, wallow in those negative emotions at home and around our children. But when we think for a moment about the struggles that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam faced in his life, our worries can seem pretty trivial in comparison. So when we remind ourselves about that he was the most merciful of people towards the members of his family, and his demeanor was always friendly, outgoing, and cheerful, then how can we allow ourselves to bring the worst version of ourselves to our children?
Yeah, that's a very key point, that sometimes we might use that as an excuse that I'm overwhelmed and there's so much going on, so I snapped. But if anybody had a reason to be overwhelmed, it would be him.
Right.
But he maintained a calm and merciful. And in fact, I like what you said here, that it is mercy to your own self. So when you do snap and you do become angry, it's not merciful to you because you are just exaggerating that overwhelm.
You're exaggerating, and you have to remember that our children are an amana. They're trusted to us. And parenting can be a form of ibadah. This is worship. If you're doing the job in the right way with the right intention, then it can serve as worship for you, and it can count as ibadah for you. So when you remember that, then you can, it elevates the stakes, and it makes you more accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We keep warning the kids about being kind and respectful to their parents, honor their parents, which, yes, that's part of our deen, but the same applies to us, to give them the same respect for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, yeah, if that's the approach we take, it's actually an easier approach, isn't it? Because anger is the more difficult. Then you have to deal with the guilt of the anger, and then worse, you feel worse, and then you snap more. It's just you are making your own life miserable.
It's a vicious cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a more difficult way to live. And another example, if I may add, this is something recently. So I'm doing a free class for kids these days called A Hero's Journey. And that's the story of Osama ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu. And he was a young boy growing up with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and almost like a grandson to him. And what I saw in that story is it said that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would ask him for advice on his personal matters. So it's not like he needs advice. I don't think so. Right. So, and he's not asking in deen matters necessarily, but it's said in his personal matters. So a lot of the time, like now in this time, 21st century, we separate the kids from household matters and bigger issues because we're trying to protect them, I guess. And we're like, your kids, you just, be take it easy, and anything more serious will hide from them. It will be too hard for you. Don't hear this news or this hardship that's happening with family. Don't hear, don't want them to know about it. It might hurt them. Um, and we don't involve them in the household matters and serious matters. What do you think about that? How is that impacting this generation? Because in Osama's story, I felt like, that gave him that mutual respect you're talking about, challenging him as well, involving him and believing in him that, like, yeah, come on, be part of this conversation, and helping him grow through it.
Right. I think, I think it's important to first recognize that it has to be age appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't think that young children necessarily need to be involved in adult conversations that may be above their ability of understanding, or that can scare them or upset them or make them worry in any way. But I do believe that we should include children in decision making that affects everyone. I'm a big proponent of family meetings. So that means everyone comes to the table and everyone has a voice, and everyone's suggestions are taken seriously, no matter their age. I feel that if you have scheduled time set aside on a consistent, regular basis, where you're involving the family in family decisions that affect everyone, you're empowering your children, because you're making them feel that they belong. You're giving them a sense of community. You're making them feel capable. You're making them feel, have this self-confidence that they can articulate their thoughts and their ideas, and they're not going to be ridiculed or told to be quiet, that their voice matters and it's heard. So I think that there's many skills that you can teach your children just by facilitating and being open to those conversations.
Yeah. And in fact, like the biggest example is Prophet Muhammad himself, that since he was 6, 8 years old, his grandfather was taking him to the meetings with the chiefs. He was used to it, that he would have a seat there and the chiefs are discussing all big matters. But this little boy has a seat on the table with these chiefs. And imagine the impact it had on him, his maturity, his growth. That
and we often don't think
how much he learned through that.
Right.
Right. So, and I guess he carried that on in his raising of the kids, because the kids would always be around with these adult meetings, and you will hear that there's a boy on the left and the adult men are sitting with him.
And that's an important point that you raised, Ariba, is that we carry on the parenting traditions that we were raised with our own children, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And that's often because we don't know any better. Nobody teaches you how to be a parent. So you transmit to your children what you received as a child. So I think that's an important point.
Yeah. And of course, in case of Prophet Muhammad, it's all khair, it's all good. But today, it's not necessarily what exactly our parents did. Doesn't exactly even work. Maybe even they did it like right for their time. Like there's a statement from Ali radiallahu anhu that raise your children for your time.
Yes.
They're growing up in a different time than yours.
And that's
so
why
don't
they
do what your parents did.
Characteristics and these qualities that are, confusing for us sometimes. But I often try to remind myself that it will maybe serve them well for the time that they will be, more active, and they'll need those qualities and those skills to survive and to be successful in their lives. So which maybe we didn't need. We didn't need, let alone our parents. Every generation is just changing so much.
Yeah. And so on that note, let's come on to the way many of us were raised, and that was with the with a lot of with the stick sometimes. And that was just part of the culture, right? That, and everybody's used to it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, hitting our children today?
You know, I feel like I'm against hitting, but some parents might think that it's necessary to hit their kids, right? They might think that's the only way that they're going to listen. And so to that, the short and the realistic answer is yes, punishment does work. It gives you immediate results and it can stop bad behavior in its tracks. Kids will fall into line, but it will be out of fear. It will not be out of love. Okay? And it's important to understand that physical punishment makes children feel humiliated. And it's the furthest thing from being motivating. Okay. There's a famous quote out there: where did we ever get the crazy idea that to make children do better, first we have to make them feel worse? Right? So if we hit our children, they're humiliated, they're unmotivated, right? So now, then you think, in order to avoid being humiliated again, kids will they make decisions subconsciously, and they will either give up, or they'll cover their actions by lying, by sneaking around, or they might go the other end of the spectrum, and they may become like approval junkies, and they'll do whatever they want to please their parents, even if it means suppressing their own feelings, their own desires, their own urges. You know, and I feel like children are born with their own distinct personalities, and it's our job to cultivate them within clearly defined, healthy, positive boundaries. And positive parenting techniques, when they've been used consistently, have been proven time and time again to be really effective in teaching our children how to behave without any heartache to either the children or to the parents. And I have one more thing to say. If people think that it's okay to hit their children, beware of Allah's wrath, because we're not supposed to force or oppress or harm others. And that includes our children. They're an amana, they are a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are responsible for them, and we have to answer to them.
So I have a slight different question. Like, what if the parent is not hitting, but threatening hitting?
Okay. So they're threatening, or they're being verbally abusive.
So they're saying, do this, otherwise I'll beat you up, or I'll hit you, I'll slap you, or
but then they don't do
I'll
it.
give you a thrashing. Yeah.
Right. But then they don't do it, right? You're saying that they don't hit. So what does that mean? It means that the parents don't mean what they say, and they don't say what they mean. So how can your child trust the parent?
Right? Anyways, won't be effective.
It won't be effective. And it's just noise. The children will tune it out. They know the parents don't mean it. And it also can have a ripple effect, because if the parent is threatening and not, there's no substance behind what they're saying that they're going to do, this threat is empty, then, and the child doesn't trust them as a result of that. So what's to say the child would trust them in any other aspect of their life? You know, trust is very hard to create, but once it's there, it can be broken in a second.
The sister's asking, what if you say, do this, or otherwise I would get angry?
Why is it about you? That's my question. You know, when you're asking your children to do something, there's a reason. There's a reason why you want them to do something. For instance, let's make a simple example. You want your child to brush their teeth. So would you say to them, brush your teeth or I will get angry? How does that impact their decision making? I should brush my teeth because otherwise, you know, my mother would get angry with me, or my father would get angry with me. It's not teaching them the reason why they need to brush their teeth. It's not going to motivate them to brush their teeth when you are not with them. It's not going to give them that internal locus of control where they're going to know what the right thing is to do and the reason behind it, and they're self-motivated to do it. All you're doing is you're tying your threats to them completing tasks, and it may get the job done, but you're creating a whole host of other issues without realizing it, and they'll show up in different ways.
Right. So what should they do? Like if I want to say, make sure you brush your teeth, what do you suggest?
Well, I
They're not
mean,
brushing their teeth.
from a positive discipline perspective, there's a number of strategies that you could use. If they're younger children, what we recommend is creating a routine chart. So for instance, if it's bedtime or morning time, and one of the things is brushing their teeth, there's a chart that they are involved in making and creating. So they have some, investment in it. They've made it themselves. They're proud of it. They want to follow it. They feel good about themselves. They're encouraged. First, we need to go to the bathroom. We need to wash our hands. We need to brush our teeth. And they've made this chart. So all you have to do is direct them to the chart. Did you start your routine chart? What's next on your routine chart? Okay, so you're not then nagging them to do this, do this, do this, and then they're able to follow it themselves. So one of them is the routine chart if you want them to get them to do something. The other thing, I just completely lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
Just threw a weird question out there.
Routine charts are really good. Having a, being encouraging and encouraging them to do it, explaining to them, what happens, or asking them what happens when you don't brush your teeth, or what you need to do to get your teeth squeaky clean. You're sending them questions, and then when you're sending them a question, their physiological response in their body is that their body relaxes because somebody's asking you something. So then a message goes to your brain, and you're searching for an answer. Okay. And then you find the answer. Oh, if I don't brush my teeth, I get cavities. You're asking them a question. If you're, instead of asking them, you're ordering them, brush your teeth. The physiological response for anybody when somebody barks an order at me, my response is I stiffen up. The message that goes to my brain is to resist it, right? So we go into this state, this physiological state where we're going to fight, or we're going to run, or we're going to freeze. Fight, flight, and freeze instinct response that our brains have. And that's going to cause us to resist. And we're going to be searching for ways that we can get out of doing what we were just told to do. These are very subtle, very small things that we can change in just the way that we talk to our children. Asking instead of telling can have make a huge difference, because your children are more likely to cooperate with you when they're relaxed, they've searched for an answer, they feel really proud of themselves, they gave you the right answer. Do you understand? And then they're able to they're thinking, what else can I do that's gonna, give the right answer to mom or to dad? And so there's a number of different things that you can do, but threatening and giving instructions and orders and doing it in a way that is it's unkind, and it's a way, if you think about the way that you talk to your child, if you yourself would not like to be talked to in the same way, then chances are you need to change the way you talk to your children.
And do it like it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it requires practice, and you mentioned your workshop and things like that will help you put it into practice.
Yeah,
slowly.
it helps to put it into practice. And also, change takes time. And for us, especially as parents, being a good parent is not about, or having good kids is not about them. It's about us being good parents. And if you want to see change, it's you that you have to change. Because when you change yourself, you will see the changes in your children. And so it takes time. It is an investment in your time, definitely.
Absolutely.
It is, it is something that you have to practice, and you have to be consistent, and you have to prioritize this. You have to make the decision. This is something that is important to me. It's important to my family. I want this to improve, and I'm going to do the changes that I need. And whether it's cheat sheets, you put stuff around the house, or you focus on one thing at a time until you get that habit, and then you move on to the next thing, whatever works for you. But change does take time, but it is definitely worth it.
Yeah. And yeah, don't be too hard on, like, I'm just trying to empathize with moms watching. Is like, okay, for tomorrow I must do this, otherwise I'm destroying my kids. Yeah, it's great that today, alhamdulillah, you understand, because of this discussion, that yes, I need to get better, and that what the way I might be stalking might be hurting a relationship, and how I'm raising my kids. That's the great achievement today, alhamdulillah, that you
Yeah.
have made.
Yeah.
And now you know the next step, that okay, now I need to walk on this path. And slowly, you take one step at a time and invest in that. And I really like this workshop idea, because obviously then you are with other people doing the same as well, and that has a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
impact. A
Yeah.
big reason we are this way is because we see everybody else. Every mom is like doing that, my friend is also doing that, so I also talk this way to my kids. But if you have a different kind of company, of a different kind of a mothers, then that will automatically start to change the way you talk, the way you behave,
Yes.
inshallah.
And I feel a lot of times a lot of parents want to change. They don't like necessarily the way that they talk to their kids.
Yeah,
They don't
absolutely.
know how to do it. They don't know,
Yeah,
what do I say instead? How do I do this? And
yeah,
because they just don't know how to make that change or what they can do instead, what are the alternatives? They just continue and carry on because that's
yeah,
all they know how
yeah.
to do.
And you don't have to.
No, you
So
don't
let's
have
not make
to.
that an excuse that how to do, because alhamdulillah, there are solutions out there, and halal parenting being one of them. So definitely, alhamdulillah, Allah has put it in front of you today. So look into that. But you don't have, let's not use that as a crutch anymore, that we live in the age of knowledge, right? An
Yeah,
age of
I mean,
information,
exactly.
that I don't know how to.
Once you know better, then you have to do
Yeah,
better. You have
yeah,
that responsibility. You have to try.
yeah. Sister Shiza is saying meal times are such a struggle, drives me insane. So maybe you can tell us more about why it drives you insane. Why are they struggle? And take a deep breath. I would suggest, if anything is making you insane at that time. No, this is another question I was going to come to, Sister Gulnaz, is that sometimes, moms get overwhelmed and things just happen and she just snaps. There is
Right.
so many pressures, especially with COVID and lockdowns. Things were difficult for so many families constantly. And so what do you suggest, to calm that overwhelm or not snap in that situation?
This past year has definitely put a heavy toll on a lot of parents and mothers, especially, who are now not only doing what they were doing before. Many who were working outside of the home are now working at home, along with, you know, teaching their children and doing their homeschool. There's a lot going on. But in terms of not snapping, as you said, I think the first step is to learn how to recognize your mental state and learn to know when you need to take a moment for yourself.
Mm,
Because when you're so worked up that you've flicked your lid, it's not physiologically possible sometimes to parent from a calm, rational, thoughtful place. Um, so when you understand and you know your triggers, you need to actively do something that calms you. And it could be simple as moving to a different room. It could be doing wudu, changing your position from standing to sitting. These are the sunnah ways of calming yourself and removing anger, saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and
mm,
announcing to your children, I need a moment to calm myself. I'll come
mm,
back when I feel better and ready to tackle this problem with you. Okay?
mm,
You can encourage your children to go to a positive, safe space where they too can cool down. If they're young, they're likely going to follow you anyway.
mm,
But it's important to model the right way to calm down, even if your children are too young to understand what you're doing. Because when they see that you're upset and then they see that you do something and then you come back calmer, they're learning from just watching you that
mm,
they need to do what you just did. They need to then
mm,
find some way to calm themselves down,
mm,
and to come back so that you can give your best to your family, because we're human, we're not robots. We do get upset, we do get stressed out, it does get a lot.
yeah,
And we are going to make mistakes, and that's something that, you know, even this program, Positive Discipline, is not going to make you a perfect parent.
mm,
Nobody can be. All
mm,
it's going to do is give you the tools so that you know how you know what to do, and you know
mm,
how to do it. And even when you mess up and you make a mistake, that you learn how to apologize to your child properly. There's a specific, you know, way to do it, that is kind to them and it's kind to yourself, because you don't want to beat yourself up. You know, we all make mistakes. We ask our children for forgiveness. They're very
mm,
forgiving, mashallah. They're very, you know, honest, you know, sweet children. And we ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we try again. We just keep trying. And the more
mm,
you do it and the more consistent you are, the easier it gets.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, very true. And a lot of points here that I want to ask about. But here's a question that a lot of people are relating to from Nosheen Waqas, that what about your other spouse? I mean, you have one spouse, I think. So what about your spouse who is very strict and try to discipline like he got disciplined? So let's say you are not getting angry, or you are not like, beating up kids or yelling at them, but he is. How do you deal with
This is
that situation?
hard. This is the hardest question that I get, because ideally you want both parents to be sending the same message so that you can
Mm,
have harmonious and peaceful home. And when only one parent is on board, then it does become very challenging. I'm not going to lie, it is hard. If
mm,
your spouse is open to the idea of you trying a different route, um, try to negotiate a amount of time, just so that you can see how effective this new strategy is.
mm,
And even if you may not want to get on board, ask him to just watch and see if he notices a difference. I think it's really important to remind of the Sunnah. I think that's very, very important, because if
mm,
that's the way that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam raised the children in his household, that's what we should be following. It shouldn't be
mm,
our cultural preferences. It shouldn't be what our families back home are doing. It shouldn't be what other
mm.
people are doing. It's what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did, and that's really the ideal that we need to get back to. So
Yeah.
I mean, this does work if there really is a lot of resistance and you are the only one. It can be really tempting to give up, but don't give up, please. If you are consistently kind and respectful and you're able to do the best that you can, your children will see that and your children will respond to that. So you can only
Mm,
hope and pray and make dua that your children are benefiting from the way that you are interacting with them.
mm. Yeah, and I think with this, there could be like a lot of reasons. I mean, if the spouse is very strict and disciplining, one could be that, yeah, I was raised this way, I'm going to do the same. It worked for me, it should work for them as well. I turned out okay, they will be okay. And then there could be that maybe your spouse is angry,
Yeah.
about his overwhelm or their stress, that whatever he is going to right now. So then we need to manage that first. Like, why are we getting that out on our kids?
Right. I mean,
Our frustration.
our children are not there to for us to vent our frustrations from life.
Yeah,
That's not the purpose of it. There are children. Just
yeah,
because they're innocent and they're young and they can't fight back, that doesn't mean, and they're vulnerable. That doesn't mean that we can do whatever we want with them. It means that we have to protect them.
yeah.
And then back to your first point, if people think that, okay, I was hit or I was yelled at and I'm okay, I think it may seem counterintuitive, but it's important to understand that we have to be aware of what works when the long-term effects are negative. Um, because kids will change their future behavior without them even realizing it if they're subject to um, physical or emotional punishment. And what I mean by that is they make decisions subconsciously because they're trying to avoid being in that position again in the future. So they'll either feel resentment, thinking this is unfair, I can't trust adults, or they might be seeking revenge, I'll get even. They might rebel and just do the opposite to prove that they don't have to listen to anybody, or they might just, retreat and hide. They might either be sneaky and try not to get caught and kind of start lying and sneaking around, which we don't want that either. Or they might have reduced self-esteem, and believe that they're a bad person. So all of these things are terrible, and we may not realize it, but subconsciously we are all making decisions, and we all change our behavior if we are, yelled at, or even if we were physically punished as children. We all made subconscious decisions, and we may have opted for any one of those things. It's subtle, but physical punishment has long-lasting negative effects. It can lead into childhood. It's been proven again and again and again. So let's break the cycle, and let's not impart the same harm on our own children.
Absolutely. There are a lot of questions about teenagers that, if they are going out of control. So that the parent has just lost control, then what to do now?
I have teenagers of my own, but they're just early teenagers. So I get scared when I hear these questions because, there's so much that can happen. I know that in terms of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the first 7 years of our children's childhood is on playing. The second 7 years of their childhood is on us teaching them and educating them. And then the third 7 years is of us being their advisor. So if the foundation has been done correctly with our children, and we've taught them the way that the things we want them to know, by the time they reach their teenage years, inshallah, they know that they can come to us for advice. That can only happen if, when they have issues or problems come up in their life, that when they talk about it, we are not being judgmental. We are not responding with lectures. We are not responding with threats or, just negative things. I mean, all of these things, when I talked earlier about how physical punishment can cause us to make decisions that we're making about how to be revengeful, or, we'll sneak, or we'll try to avoid all of these things in the future. The same happens with our teenagers, but by the time they become teenagers, it's not very subtle. It's very obvious that they're trying to get away from us. They're already naturally at the stage where they're trying to assert their independence, and they're trying to make decisions on their own. They're test driving adulthood, essentially. And so our job is to kind of keep them in the right lane. We're trying to set boundaries of what is acceptable and what is not. But we have to give them some leeway so that when they make mistakes, it is a safe place for them to make mistakes. And we're going to correct them gently and with love. We're not going to reprimand them. We're not going to threaten to beat them, or, take away things, or, harm them in any way, kick them out of the house. I mean, threats and all of those kinds of things just makes it spirals. It just makes everything just get worse and worse and worse. And even if your children are teenagers, it's still not too late to reestablish those basic that foundational bond of love that Rasulullah SAW did with the people in his household, because we can still listen, and we should listen twice as much as we speak. And I tell my children, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we listen twice as much as we speak. You need to listen to what they're saying. And even if you're just, oh, that sounds bad, you're just listening. You're showing that you're actively listening. You're not imparting judgment. You're not telling them what they should do. You're not trying to resolve their problems for them. You're just there as a sound piece to listen to them. And sometimes all they need is just to vent. And then they feel better, and then they go off and do their own thing. But knowing that they can come to you and they can unload and it's a safe place and they're not going to feel worse after having come to you is going to keep them coming back and keep them coming back. And then what you talked about earlier, Ariba, is how the Prophet Muhammad SAW would go and seek children's advice on their own things. We could do that too. You know, we can come to our sons and our daughters and say, I have a problem and I'm really stumped and I just wondered, you know, do you have any ideas? And, you know, talk to them as though they're adults and just see what kind of response you get. Show them that you have faith and you have confidence in their ideas, you know.
Absolutely.
Understand that they are capable and they have they're innovative. You know, our children have imaginations and they might have come to approach an idea or a problem with a whole new perspective that we might not have thought of. So I think it's really important to do a combination of all of those things.
Very true. And so that's the mutual respect you talked about earlier, isn't it?
Yeah. And it kind of, what that looks like evolves as our children get older. But yes, the mutual respect is very important.
Yeah. And I guess as they grow older, it should be a lot more.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, one of the things that you said was that they're trying to now assert their independence. Which, you know, that's part of them growing up. And I mean, the way they assert their independence now really depends on how much they need to. Because if you have already given them from a younger age more independence, and they know that, yeah, you have not locked me up, that do as I say, otherwise I'll threat you and I will, you know, hit you, then they don't feel the need to rebel, to assert their independence,
to
I guess.
They're a point in their existence. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the misbehavior, you know, that you see from children all the way up to teenagers is the result of some underlying issues. And one of the things about positive discipline is it's one of the very few parenting programs that really works to resolve the source of the problem rather than just treating the symptoms. So if you think about an iceberg, for instance, all you see at the top of the iceberg is going to be the misbehavior, whether it's not eating their food, like you just said, or if they're fighting, or they're answering back, or they're, you know, misbehaving in some way.
Yeah.
And a lot of parenting programs will try to, you know, give you ideas on how to solve those symptoms at the top. But positive discipline and positive parenting, it looks underneath the iceberg. What is the reason behind it? And it usually comes from just a couple different things. It's either our children feel unloved. We're sending them the message somehow that we don't love them. We send them the message somehow that they don't belong, you know, or we're sending them the message somehow that they're insignificant. That's it. It's one of those three things. And so as part of this program and this workshop, we go through what the symptoms are, and we narrow it down so we can try to understand what is the source of this and what it is that our child is actually trying to communicate with us, and what we can do to help them get there, because we contribute to this. You know, this is all coming from us in the way that we talk, in the way that we interact. Even if it's something as simple as not sitting with them and looking them in the eye and giving them our full attention when they come to us to tell us something, you know, we're sending them the message. If we're staring at our phones all of the time and we're just we're not listening. They know we're not listening. That's just one.
That's not mutual respect.
That's not respectful. It's not respectful to them, for sure. And they don't feel that they are worthy. I mean, your phone is more important than me. You know, you don't even want to come and look at me. You don't even want to listen to me, but you'll watch the TV or you'll watch your phone. That's just one example. You know, so there's different reasons why they misbehave. And so we really try to help you get it to the root of what it is you're doing to contribute to this, what it is that they are feeling, and what it is that they need, and how you can help them.
Yeah. And another thing I would like to add is, don't underestimate them. Especially at that age, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, we are grossly underestimating our children and just saying like, you are a kid, just go sit in that kid's corner. And they're like, they're just, all of their soul is saying, oh no, I am not just a kid. Give me a greater respect.
Yes.
So that's that, as you said, like asserting their independence, that I'm grown up now. I can understand more now. I can do more now.
Yeah.
But for us, it's easier if you're just in line and,
No, I agree.
unless,
I think that we do underestimate our children. I think that we do shortchange them. And I think,
yeah,
I did talk earlier about the family meetings. That's something that positive discipline really advocates, because not
yeah,
only does everyone have a voice at the table, but a problem, say we come up with an issue during the week, we put it on the agenda and everyone gets together once a week and we try to figure out how we can resolve it. Everyone gets to give their own opinion. And it's just astonishing how innovative our children can be. And
absolutely,
you
yeah,
really, as
very
I said
true.
earlier, they can approach the same problem from a
Yeah,
completely different perspective that we could never have thought of. So it
yeah,
just gives them so many, it gives them such a boost. They get self-confidence, they feel capable, it gives them independence, it gives them so
yeah, yeah,
many great qualities. And
yeah,
similarly, when we as parents, especially mothers, we do everything for our children because we believe, and culture tells us that when we do that, it means we are a good mother. When we do that, we're robbing our children of the experience to do things for themselves. We're crippling them, because then they don't know how to do anything. Then they believe themselves incapable. And then those same children become teenagers, and then we start to complain that our children don't do anything to help us.
right. Yeah. When we didn't give them that opportunity, really,
Yeah.
to be able to do more and contribute more. And yeah. And this is just a funny comment from one of the moms, and she said, my 8-year-old is sitting in a few feet away, listening to this conversation, and she didn't realize he was listening. And he asked her, what are you watching? Are you watching child operating lecture, mom? Like, yeah. So I'm give him the mutual respect and tell him, yes, I'm learning to operate you better.
That's funny.
Right. So I mean, that's a good point. Like, there's no, kids should also see that mom and dad are also trying to get better at this.
Yeah.
They're also learning, right? We're not, it's not something that I was just born being a great parent, a greatest parent. This also requires learning.
Yeah.
So I'm learning, right? Because I want to be a better parent to you. So that should encourage the children, inshallah, as well.
Yeah.
And
Inshallah.
that's another form of giving respect to them, I hope.
Yeah.
um, I think we talked a lot about this. If my camera is stuck somewhere. Anyway, you can still hear me though. We talked a bit about it, but anything else, if you want to add, like how the lack of respect impacts the behavior of children.
Well, let me ask you, are we talking about the lack of respect towards children, or the lack of respect towards the parents?
Question.
Right? So, because too often we as parents, we demand respect from our kids without showing them what that means.
Yeah.
And in many of our home countries and cultures, we beat our kids into submission.
Mm.
Are we asking our children's opinions? Are we using kind words even when we're setting limits with them? Are we taking the time to look them in their eyes, give them our full attention, and when we speak to them? So in other words, are we modeling the behavior we want to see from our children? Because if we're not, then it's just hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Sister Mina is asking, how about anger management of some kids?
I don't know. This is a parenting program, so this is not a children's program. But I think if you yourself are showing your child through modeling how you are managing your anger,
Mm.
I think that can have a profound impact on your children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's important to sit with your child when he or she is calm, and you can approach it. Maybe you can approach it as from a family meeting perspective. Say, I've noticed that you get angry sometimes, and I get really scared for you. And I wonder if you can think of some things that you could do that may calm you down when you start to feel like that. And together brainstorm a list of things that he could do. I would suggest creating a corner of the house. Maybe it's a small room, or it's a corner of the living room or something, where he can go to when he's starting to feel angry, and he can feel himself getting angry, and have some things there that would calm him, such as, a book, or, soft toys, or whatever it is that would calm him. Just no screens, because that's not gonna help calm anybody. It might keep him quiet for the time, but it will, it has other issues in terms of him learning how to deregulate himself. So I would take out screens, but have some things in there that you agree upon beforehand, puzzles, things like that. And then suggest to him that, maybe when you're starting to feel angry, you can, I can just point you in the direction of here, and then you can just stay here until you start to feel a little bit calmer. And then we can come out and we can talk about it. I mean, just kind of give him options, but have conversations with him when he's calm, and approach it as a problem that you would with an adult. Say, this is an issue. We need to find a solution. What ideas do you have? And just see, because if he is coming up with ideas and you are using some of those ideas that he himself has come up with, he's more likely to cooperate.
Yeah, very true. That's a very good point. That let him come up with ideas and cooperate with him instead of always asking him to cooperate with you. Yeah, that's a great point. And also that the language that you use when you're angry, you will find the kids using exactly the same words. Right? So
Careful what you're saying. Yes.
yeah. So be careful in that, your own language. And sometimes it might be that, mom is very calm. And by the nature, sometimes, it could be that some kid is just more angry and you are doing everything right, but you still more angry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you suggested a lot of strategies to deal with that. And there are tools available to help calm down, the Sunnah way of calming down. And just, I mean, the biggest thing we can do is just not speak. When you are angry, just not speak. Just keep your mouth shut, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and
at
if you're
that
home,
time.
yeah, and if you're home and you have some, I mean, I know people who have, children who just lose their tempers, and it's easier for them where the parents have put in a boxing bag or something, and they can just, when they get mad, they go there and they take out all of their aggression in a safe,
That's a great idea.
place, so that they can, then when they tire themselves out, and then they're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of get it out of them. Because a lot of times, especially with younger kids, they're feeling different things, but they don't know what to call it. They don't know what to do with it. They don't understand why they're feeling different things. Just because they're unable to articulate and get their point across, they just get frustrated. So that it shows up in anger, tantrums. And
this is very true. Kids often, like, they get these feelings and they don't know, like, what is that? That was a weird feeling. Right? So that's a very good point. So it might just be that he's not actually angry, he's something else, and he doesn't know how to express that. So, well, anger is familiar. I'll get it out that way, throwing a tantrum or something like that. Yeah, great point. And I mean, I also feel like educate them about it. I remember a long time ago, I had made a video for kids about anger and what anger does to you. And of course, your brain, we know like the body chemistry is deeply impacted by it. And just telling the kids exactly what happens inside of your body, or how your blood warms up, and then how it can impact your skin and brain and heart. I mean, that transformed a lot. I was getting messages like, my kid is not angry anymore, and he does what, in the end of the video we talked about some strategies like go and do wudu or move away. I feel like he does that now because he doesn't want the consequences that anger brings to you. And also, like, I mean, I believe like you are not in control anymore when you're like, I mean, you're still in control, you are still in control, but because your brain is weaker now, you're not thinking straight anymore.
Right. So I go through an exercise. Yeah. I go through an exercise Dr. Siegel had done. We adapted it. So I go through the hand, where you do the brain in the palm of the hand. So if this is your brain stem, and then this is your midbrain, the amygdala, where your memories are stored, where you were scared or you were hurt, and those memories are stored here. And then this is your cortex. And then this is your prefrontal cortex, where this is where rational thinking takes place. And this is where you're able to be calm and you're able to be thoughtful. And then when your buttons are pushed and you lose your temper, you're in a flipped lid state, which means they are physiologically unable to make any of those decisions. You can't think clearly or rationally at all. So taking the time to walk away, to do something that's going to calm yourself, is going to bring your cortex back to where it needs to be, so that then you can get back your rational thought. And you can have these, you can do this demonstration with children, I think from age 6 and up. And once they're able to understand that this is what happens, because when you're in this state, you're in your fight, flight, and freeze. This is you can't physically do anything. And so once you teach your children to recognize when they're in that state, then they and you've already talked about what they can do when they feel that way, and they know what to do. You know?
And that again goes for respecting them, not just like don't be angry, but respecting that he can understand. Giving them that respect and teaching them about it.
Definitely.
Don't underestimate their ability to understand, absorb, and implement, inshallah. And like on that, I look at it like, as you said, your brain is weaker, and then we know that shaitan is talking to us, and he knows this is prime time now for me. So he will whisper, say you are an idiot. You will say you are an idiot because you're not thinking anymore, right? So all kinds of things are going to come out of your head. And then we go, look, I didn't mean it. I only said it when you're angry. When I was angry. Because I was angry, sorry. And it is true. You really did not mean it at times, because shaitan said it to you and you blurted it out.
Right.
So really, at least keep your mouth closed at that time. Another thing, a strategy I would recommend, and this helped me a lot, is when you see him angry, is two things. One, what I teach kids is just get them to have like a memory book of sweet memories, right? So if they are angry at you that you did not buy me this or you didn't take me there, get them that they have this sweet memory book that they can go and look up, and that it reminds them, okay, no, it is my mother, she loves me, she doesn't hate me, her mission in her life is not to make my life harder. Right? So make a memory book. It could be from siblings as well, something that they can go back to remember the sweet moments when shaitan is trying to fill their mind with all kinds of negative thoughts. Secondly, when he's angry, another thing you can try, it will not always work, is smile and maybe give him a hug. So it's completely changes it. He's not expecting it. He's expecting that mom's gonna say, don't be angry, do this, go there, go to your room. Just go and give him a hug, surprise him. And that interrupts that anger completely. Well,
here's something interesting, because one positive discipline strategy is connection before correction, and part of that is using a hug. But it's slightly different, because instead of going and giving your child a hug, is you simply saying, I need a hug. You're not
Right.
telling that way. You're not telling him to do anything. You're just saying that you need a hug.
Forcing.
And
Yeah.
then
Pulling
because
him.
children have this natural tendency to comply,
Yeah.
then they come and they give you a hug, and they're doing it because they want to come and give you a
Yeah.
hug, right?
Yeah.
And then you're able to like, they're able to relax, and then you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. MashaAllah. Okay, mashallah, that's a really cool one. So tell him that I need a hug.
I need
And
a hug.
inshallah, watch magic happen. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I mean, I feel like that will be such a wonderful moment when he comes to you, even in the anger moment.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time now. It's been an hour. So just last couple of questions. Um, okay, so do you feel like our parenting standards are sinking, though we are compromising too much on what we accept from our kids, sorry, and from ourselves?
So we accept which standards of what? Standards of their education, or standards of what specifically?
Standards of the way, so yeah, I was going more at standards of what our moral standards are sinking, and what we accept from our children as well. I mean, yeah, we are talking about positively disciplining them, but and not being too strict and hitting them and
Right.
controlling them. But then there is the other side of it where we are not disciplining at all.
Right.
And we're like,
okay,
yeah.
so that kind of goes back to what I said earlier, where we have the over disciplining. First of all, discipline does not mean punish. That's two separate terms. First of all, punishment and discipline are different. Punishment is punishing somebody for doing something wrong. Discipline is keeping somebody guided on the right path. Okay. So, and I know they're used interchangeably, but it makes a big difference. And then if you're over disciplining, or you're punishing your children because you're being overly strict and authoritarian, and then going the other way and you're being lax and permissive, where we are in the middle is positive discipline, which is firm and kind. So in terms of what you asked, was the standards of parenting are sinking, I think it depends.
If I can give one example of a mom who had this conversation with me a while back, and her son was watching too many some device he was using a lot, playing games all day. And she said to me, I know he's like doing it way too much, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want to damage our relationship.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, she's being too permissive.
Yeah.
She's on the other end of the spectrum, because what positive discipline would be is you can be firm and kind. You can say, I love you and I want to see you, and I want you to only spend 1 hour a day on your gadget. So I love you, and you can only spend 1 hour a day on your gadget. If you are a ship without an anchor, okay, how can you expect your children to have firm standards of morality? If you make compromises and compromises and compromises, then how can you expect your children to all of a sudden know exactly what it is that they need to do? I mean, they're only going to know what you're allowing them to do. So yes, we love our children. Yes, sometimes it's easier just to let them play video games all day so that we can do other things and we don't have hassles. But that's not really parenting, is it? That's not really teaching our children anything.
Yeah.
So it's like we have to set boundaries, and we have to set healthy boundaries that are, safe for them, that have limits, but that are also respectful to us and to them as well. We are a family. I love you, and I expect you to be a part of this family. We are all going to eat dinner together. You can spend an hour, everyone has an hour of free time. You can choose to spend it on that. That is fine. But you may not play any longer than that. You set boundaries. And if you're not setting the boundaries, then you cannot complain.
Yeah, very true. Okay. Lastly, I want to share Emaan Power. I mean, I'm completely focused on. I believe that we definitely underestimate kids a lot, and they are capable of understanding so much more. They're capable of doing a lot more. And we talk so much about mutual respect and, giving kids more freedom and cooperating with them. And I love how you said that, take his idea and let him tell you. That's helping our children bring out things in them, bring out their own ideas, and take more lead in conversations rather than always us taking lead. And my mission in life is to help children be leaders, not wait till they are older, that one day I'm going to be that, but bring out that leader in them right now. Alhamdulillah, I've done that for last 10 years. I've been doing this. And if you look at history, this is only maybe last 100 years we see kids, you are a kid. But if we go back 100 years, if we go back to the best generation, a 15-year-old will not just be concerned about school and games. He will be concerned about all kinds of matters in the community. He would be a fully contributing member to the household, to the community. And so it's not like our children are dumber or less than them. It's just that we are not giving them an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I believe because of that, because we suppress that, like, you're a kid, just focus on learning.
Yes.
And which is great, alhamdulillah, but we then don't involve them in anything else. We don't let them use other aspects of their character, the other qualities they have, or the gifts they have, or the abilities they have. So then we see them, their spirit as they grow older, it's just demotivated. They're just sleeping for hours and hours, and they just don't care. And they're just waiting that I grow up and I'm out of there, right? I can be more freer and so on. But alhamdulillah, what I have seen in kids over the years, when you give them the opportunity to make a difference in the world right now, bring those qualities, take a lead right now, you can make a difference, so lead it, and we will be here for you. Yeah. We are your coaches, we are your guides, we are your support in that, to steer you, not to take control from you and you just sit here and we'll tell you what to do.
Right.
We also have seen amazing, alhamdulillah, results from that kids not only being more connected to the deen, because deen is not like a set of rules then, but it is giving them freedom to be themselves. And also giving them, helping them find who they are, like as a great leader, what capacity they have to make a difference. I don't have to be just, do some fake challenges in a game and feel like a hero momentarily.
It feels more authentic to the kid.
Yeah. I really am making a difference. I am valuable to this earth. I am much more capable, much more gifted than I ever thought I was. And the world needs me. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's excellent, mashallah. I think it's something that's much needed. I agree with you completely that we don't do enough in this aspect, in this area, and then we just expect our children to pick up the mantle when they're adults and they have no interest and no idea where to begin. So I think that this will give them much needed skills and confidence. And again, it's a safe place to practice these skills before they're out in the real world. So I applaud you, mashallah. I think that's wonderful.
Great, Jazakallah khair, and Jazakallah khair for your time today. I would love it if you could tell us more about your workshops. How can people join? Where can they join? When can they join? I'm sure a lot of people are really eager to go and sign up and start the positive parenting journey, inshallah.
So we have, it's a 6-week program that I have. It's 90 minutes a week, and it's a very unique type of workshop. It's not me sitting and lecturing. I mean, I do talk for some of it, but it is interactive role play. So I have the attendees take the turns in playing their children, or take turns playing themselves as parents. And then we go through different dialogues of things that we are typically doing. We talk about the effects, and then we talk about how we can change the dialogue, and and then I process with the person who played the child what they were thinking and feeling and deciding from having that different way of being communicated to, and how it made them feel about themselves. And so I think it's very impactful. because it really puts parents in the mindset of their children, and it makes them realize that making these small changes really does change the way that our children behave with us. They are likely to be more cooperative if we do this, this, and this. And so I really think that that is something that's a key difference between this workshop to a lot of other ones. It's not a series of boring lectures. I could sit and talk about this for hours and hours, but it really doesn't benefit you as much until you put yourself in that position. Because when you're learning by doing, the learning is deeper. And then when you find yourself in that similar situation with your children, it's easier for you to pull out that tool to use it with your child. And the feedback is, I diverted a tantrum because I did this. I never thought that it would work, and I was, things like that. So alhamdulillah, it's something that is very unique. And we have a lot of fun, especially the sibling rivalry, really throwing yourselves into arguments and then having the parents step in and how you can change and do things differently. So over the 6 weeks, we talk about lots of different things. We talk about positive timeouts, sibling rivalry, how to be firm and kind. We talk about consequences, how to be encouraging, how to praise, getting children to problem solve, what happens when your children talk back, using empowering statements. There's definitely a wide range of issues that we cover. But this parenting program, as I said, if you refer back to the iceberg, we really delve to the source of the problems to help you understand the underlying need for your child, so that no matter what misbehavior you see as the symptoms, you're able to then go in and identify and resolve the issues that your child is struggling with.
Great. And where can they go to?
So the website is halalparenting.com. There's a tab there for workshops, and we're accepting registration for our summer sessions. They're on Mondays and Saturdays, Los Angeles time. There's 2 different times to accommodate different time zones. There is an early bird discount that ends July 1st, so I encourage you to take advantage of that.
Action fast. Okay, mashallah, that really sounds really wonderful. And I mean, now you have learned all this, take an action towards it, and that action would be today, inshallah, that you go and sign up for that. And as as Sister Gulnaz was saying, you could read a book about it, but it's not going to be the same when you actually do it, when you practice it. And that's a really important part. So you owe it to your children to be the best parent that you can be. You're not going to be a perfect parent ever, forget that, but you owe it to them to be the best parent that you can be, inshallah. So make this investment towards it, towards your family, towards your own self, right? For your own peace of mind. Have mercy on yourself. Right. Okay. And I just also want to say that we are very soon starting Rising Heroes. I know many people are very excited about it. I am also very excited about it. And for that, before that, I'm doing some trial classes, a hero's journey. I talked a little bit about the story of Osama ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu today, how Prophet Muhammad's relationship was with him. I'm going to talk a lot more about it with kids in this free class called A Hero's Journey. Everybody's kids are welcome if they're above 9. This is for 9 to 15. You're welcome to attend. We have lots of sessions. So, and for all time zones, inshallah. It's a very inspiring story, all about his childhood, and a great role model, a higher role model for our children, which we all know we desperately need in today's time. I mean, I feel horrible how our great Mr. Beast might be. I feel terrible every time I hear his name from kids, that they look up to him. I don't know, I'm sure if your kids are preteens, you have heard Mr. Beast. I hear it in every single class, like Mr. Beast is giving so much charity, or it's PewDiePie or whatever, or some singer or some footballer. But those are not the best role models for our children. And we see that every few years when they we find them in some kind of a debacle or another. So these are the role models we need for our kids. And especially I love his story, because this story is all just about his teenage years, right? From when he was 8 years old till when he was 19. So it's just about what he achieved as a kid. We don't even go into his older years, so kids can see how much capability they have in themselves right now. So join me. It's to sign up, you can go to emanpower.com/free trial, and sign up. Easy as that. I look forward to seeing you. Jazakallah khair, Sister Gulnaz. It was very valuable, and I hope everybody who was watching us found it extremely valuable. Please give us your feedback in the comments. We would love to hear that. Sister Nausheen is already saying this was very, Jazakallah khair, it was very informative. It truly was. You taught us so much, Sister Gulnaz. You gave us so much value, so many tips and strategies on even how we can talk, and reminded us of how we should not talk. And I'm sure a lot of people found it very enlightening of to change, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely for your time today,
For you.
and really appreciate it.
Jazakallah khair. And thank you for having me. It's wonderful to connect with you and to have this conversation. I love talking about this. So I'm always
absolutely happy. We could see your passion coming through you throughout. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Stop the